Oh, maybe we'll save that for another Tuesday or something. Or
or not.
Yeah.
I mean, it may just be
oh
so
no, I
narrow.
think it's just this stuff is really, like, for me, it's really interesting. Like, I'm not technical on that end at all. I'm not involved. I'd like to get more involved with ICANN and all that kind of stuff, but it's just, you operate a registrar, right? So you know a lot more about this stuff, and it's cool that you share it. Like, I'm really, I think I speak for a lot of us that we're really appreciative. And same thing with Stephen with his legal stuff. He pops up when we say his name 3 times. It's like, it's cool to have people here who share their knowledge of things that really matter to this industry that most of us just don't go over our head. We don't realize it's there. But the domains, there's so much stuff working to make them work properly and give us our abilities to do what we do as domainers that we sometimes overlook. There's a lot more to it than just go to GoDaddy and pay her $8 or $9, or not just GoDaddy but anywhere else, and yeah. So
some people like the sausage factory floor and seeing how everything's built. Some people just like the sausages, right? I fear I'm dominating this meeting, though. I'd really love to let other people talk.
Just to comment on what Arav said, I was looking on LinkedIn out of just sort of inane curiosity, and there's over 650,000 people on LinkedIn who claim to be domainers. I haven't seen that many people at any of the conferences, to be perfectly honest.
A lot of them are probably duplicate potential domain sellers are like using ghost accounts to or automated sort of registration to sort of spam potential buyers. But there's probably still a lot still, though.
I think there's probably well nigh 100,000 of people who are thinking of it. I mean, I met one guy last week. He called me. He says, I'm a big domainer. I'm really going to make a lot of money on this stuff. Just wanted to meet you. Blah blah blah. I said, nice to meet you. How many names you got? I've got 8 now.
I knew that was coming. Yeah, that's awesome though. That's awesome though, because you know what? Like, I mean, yeah, when you start, you have a handful of domains, you think they're worth something. Maybe they are, it's like, you never know, but it's just, there's so many different ways to do this business. Look, Mike Seiger's still there right now, right? Like, he's one of the most successful domainers in the last, it's progressed from A to B in the last, I don't know, 8 years since he kind of started, or maybe a little bit more. And it's like, he only has 30 domains. But you look at any one of his domains and they're gold, and you don't have to have 3,000 domains to be successful. You can have 30 domains and be a very successful domainer, whereas there's other people who have 30,000 domains who might struggle to be profitable, and it's fun to see everybody so different in this business.
Wait, it's not the number of domains that you have that makes
Stop buying domains.
It sounds like you're talking to Mike Mann.
I think. How did you find out How did you find out that number, Stephen? Just
go to LinkedIn. Just go to LinkedIn and type in the word domainer. It came up with about 650,000 when I looked.
You must have a different LinkedIn than I do. Okay, I'll do that again.
No, go look. You'll see.
Yeah, I did the same thing, and I only see 762 people.
That's what I got.
762. Come on.
That's what I got.
They all died in like the last few weeks. No.
Isn't there 1 million members on NamePros?
Yeah, but that's not a real number.
Once they voted, they deleted them. The dead ones.
That's a very, very, very misleading number. But yeah.
If I search for domain name in quotes, I see 151,000 people that have that in their bio someplace on LinkedIn.
Huh.
I got 762, just like you.
If I search for just domain, I get 2 million. But that's going to bring in people whose expertise in a specific domain is something.
It was under network or under people.
Well, I'd like to say, I would like to welcome a celebrity to our room. When I search domain investor, I get 253,404. And at the top of the list, you may know him for his recent clowning around at a Halloween social. Kevin McKim, #1 on the list.
Wow.
Nice.
Wow. Giggles. What was it? Giggles no. Giggles something.
Muerte.
Giggles Malte. Yeah, that was
Muerte. Giggles muerte.
So that's domain investor 253,000.
Yeah, I think you
Wow.
need to put it in quotes because I'm getting people that are just investors.
Now
Where's
I only
this
get 485.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got 485 also. I don't remember what I typed in for the 650.
Where do you see this page?
I don't even know if I put in domain investor.
I typed in domain investor to LinkedIn and you came up first.
Oh, I put in the word domains. That's what came up. 651,000.
What about domain names? A little more specific. Well, yeah, it's the domain.
But
we all know
the
what
term
it means.
domains can be used
Yeah.
in biology and
That's
some other areas that
Yeah,
have
it's
nothing
true.
to do with this.
No,
as
it
well.
can't.
No, wait. Come on. Everything
No,
has
it
to do with
can't.
domain names.
No,
Period.
it cannot. Yeah.
But Bob's right. It could be biology domains, right?
Oh, come on.
Biology related
It's-
domain. Biology.com.
There's 646,000 that are used that way, and there's 8 that are used for biology.
But here's the real question. I wonder how many people who enter domaining specifically to do that as a business, not just holding domains to maybe build out one day like most of us started. But I mean, how many actually deliberately make the choice to start domaining and then don't make it much after the first renewal phase? Like what percentage is that? Is it like 90% or higher?
How the hell could you figure that out?
I don't know. I'm just curious because I mean,
Yeah,
all the
my
time.
guess is at least more than half.
Arf is a spreadsheet wizard. He could figure something like that out.
Yeah.
I got it. I know how to figure it out. Put a wanted post, wanted forward dot infos. I'll pay up to $1,000.
I suspect if we looked at how many people join NamePros and have become inactive after a year,
Well,
it would be more or less the number.
there's two things with NamePros registrations. One of them is that there's many that there's not a million registrations, like not even close to it. But even of the ones that are there, as in most forums, nothing against NamePros or anything like that, but in most forums, how it works. I used to have a large forum as well for music and DJing and stuff like that. A lot of them are these, ghost accounts where people come in, they log in once, they make 1 or 2 posts, and that's maybe 20%. And then the other 80% are people who don't even do it at all. And you have maybe 5% of people who come and end up being, contributing members for more than a few months and make more than 5 posts, let's say. So looking at total numbers, it's weird. As I would name.
Yeah, although you could partly get around that by number of posts over some period.
Yeah.
And NamePros, I don't know if they share the data, but I'm pretty sure they track the number of monthly users.
Yeah, you can go back. You can see, like they say they have, I think 1.1 million, but there's actually only about 250,000 registrations. And of those, like I said, of those 250,000, not to say anything about NamePros because it's every single forum, unless they periodically go and crop out the 0 post registrations, it's probably maybe 100,000, something like that, who've actually had more than 2 posts, or had 2 posts or more. So it's hard. It's a hard number to gauge, and there's many more people who started buying domains who never joined NamePros too. So it's just hard to get a grasp. I mean, probably the person you want to ask is GoDaddy, right? They might have a better idea of how many.
They'll never tell us.
Oh yeah, I know.
Hey, Bob, can you tell us a few of the stats behind everything?
Yeah.
No.
I got a new topic. Got an interesting name coming up for sale at GoDaddy Auctions. And for those of you that are like, no, don't say it. I was going to bid on that, and you can't. Well, this will be
the 4-letter
don't say it.
Wait, Paige, before you tell us, is it a 4-letter info?
There you go. So NewportNews.com is coming up for sale. as an
name.
expired name, and you say, well, isn't that a city in Virginia or Maryland or one of those places over there, whatever? And then you find that a clothing company called Newport News sued the owner of the geo-domain name Newport News in 2011 and won the domain name. And now is letting it drop, I guess.
Yeah. Wow.
So when should I look for that one, Paige?
What's that?
When should I look for that one?
Well, you need 17,000 to be the top bidder now.
Wow.
Is that all?
Oh,
Wow.
USD or pesos?
No, I'm sorry, you don't. That's the valuation is 15,769.
Wait,
So
there's a valuation, a GoDaddy valuation of 15K?
Yeah.
Wow. Very
it's a city of like 150,000 people.
Yeah, so that's there's the SEO in there somewhere.
So whenever I see these, I always tell myself, this is going to be a test of the GoDaddy. Can you renew a name that's already gone to auction? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Because there's probably what 100 people trying to find the existing owner of NewportNews.com right now, and trying to find them to call GoDaddy and see if they can renew it. And I forgot to renew it. Oh, the email went to another address. So
you can definitely renew it at the moment. I've got names that are dropped in my account. One of them I saw in closeouts, and I could still renew it.
no, I'm talking about names with bids. Hey, Joshua, good to see you, by the way.
Hey,
As far as I know, when a bid comes, one bid, it pulls it out of your account.
Here's
Really?
here's how it works is that GoDaddy starts listing the names at auction 25 days after expiration. Their terms now, as of a year and a half ago, thereabouts, changed so that they reserve the right that after 30 days, you no longer have the right to renew your domain.
But Josh, you're right. If no one's bid, then
exactly.
yours could be in closeout.
Yeah,
and
the
it
moment-
could
the
go
moment
all the way through.
They
and
let
stuff
you
like
go.
that.
They let you renew it as long as they want, because of course, obviously, it's a client. But the moment there's one bid, after 30 days or after midnight at the end of the 29th day, it's no longer in your account. It's taken from your account. You don't get an email about that until later on.
Yeah,
So it's
that's the
gone.
worst.
Yeah,
thing.
that's a real sneaky thing. But yeah, so the moment there's a bid on a domain after the 29th day at midnight, or midnight Pacific time, I should say, it's gone from your account. And it doesn't necessarily have to be before that. Like if somebody makes their first bid on that domain on day 32, well, then a couple minutes after that bid is made, it's gone from your account.
No, it's day 29.
Yes, if the bid is made before that, but there's no bid
Okay, I got you.
day 32, then it's whenever that bid is made after the 30th day that the domain is just gone from your account, and there's nothing you can do about it. Unless maybe you have a great connection, but otherwise, yeah, it's that's how it works. So yeah, if you let a domain drop and nobody bid on it or nobody picked up at closeout, you can renew it, no problem. But if somebody did buy it at closeout, then it would be gone from your account. You wouldn't be able to even make that selection. Yeah. So
I have there was another name this year that dropped that had been the subject of litigation. GIBill.com dropped, and that was actually taken by the government in, I don't know, like 2012 or something. They sued Quinn Street, who was using it as like some kind of lead gen site, and won. And then I saw it on the drop, and I was like, "Oh, that's a great name." But then I did my research, and I'm like, "No, it's not," because I don't want to.
I guess for me, it's a matter of like, Eric, you said casually, well, maybe if you know somebody.
Yeah.
Well, it's not if you know somebody. It's either a rule or it's not a rule.
Yeah,
you know
but
what I mean?
it's,
and so it's either it is, and if it is for everybody, it is for me. And if it's not a rule, then it's not for everybody, and it's not for me. And so that's
yeah. But as Steven said before, it's GoDaddy, right? So you don't know what's behind that wall. You don't know who has preferential treatment, who can, because they can always go back and say, oh, well, there was a mistake, right? And they in their terms of services, I'm sure they have that right to correct anything they want for any reason whatsoever. They generally don't. Like, look, I gets my nerves seeing a lot of people saying, yeah, GoDaddy's evil company out to get domainers. They're not. It's just that their platform sometimes is a little bit messy. They don't know what's going on, so they just.
But on the flip side of the conspiracy theory, it also tells you that they're not warehousing names.
No, No, I don't think they are.
Because, you know, we all see a lot of names that if they were warehousing names, then they would.
I think
let
the
somebody's name
bigger
go off.
issue with GoDaddy auctions is it's the preferential treatment to certain individuals who have the API access, who can trigger, get, you know, a quicker on the trigger to get the closeouts. You know, for those of us who are closeout
But
sniping.
is that preferential treatment, or is that just a smarter competitor?
No, there's certain people who don't get access to the API.
No, you get access to it now. They changed that,
No,
right?
everyone
Oh,
can
they
get
did?
access to it. Yeah.
When did that change?
I'm pretty sure that changed.
Yeah.
When
I
was
mean,
that? You know?
Yeah.
I heard that they had new APIs that they rolled out fairly recently. Maybe
Okay, like in the last month or two or something like that, or
Oh no,
maybe
more
like
than,
3 or 4 months.
Wow.
Maybe.
And what do they call it? GoDaddy Pro or GoDaddy Agency or GoDaddy? They've got a name for what they're trying to move us all toward. GoDaddy Agency, GoDaddy Pro, GoDaddy Professional, something like that.
I thought GoDaddy Pro was more for resellers. No.
Yeah.
It's different. It's a different term. But
I'm
do you
not-
do the
I'm
API,
not-
Josh?
No, I mean, I was strongly considering it at one point, and then I was like, nah, I'm just going to work harder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, Josh, for stopping my lists.
No, I mean, it's okay. For me, it's not about the list. It's about having to be in multiple places at the same time, and
Yeah.
all of that kind of thing. So I always miss something every day. But I'm adding a lot of names every day at the moment, so it's quite hectic.
Yeah, is your number of your domains you own public still?
I don't think it was ever public. If you look up,
Yeah.
I know because I know you mentioned
if you try to find my names, you find
No.
like 20, and I owned them in 2014.
No, because I know I won't, without saying numbers, I know you mentioned a few times on different places on your podcast and stuff like that. And it's just because I know that like 2 or years ago you had a certain number, and then like a year later you were like, wow.
Not wow. I'm still a pea shooter in the grand scheme of things.
Well, yeah, pea shooter is relative, right?
I had about 800 names
Yeah.
at the end of last year, and now I have about 3,000 ish.
Okay.
Maybe a bit more.
Yeah, that's
And every single one of them makes money every single month.
Yeah, it's crazy. Every time I look at them, I get a $sign in my eye.
Well, it's not you don't really own it till you have to renew it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
There's
Yeah.
still some left, I heard.
There's lots. Seems like there's lots left. I don't
They're
know.
all gone. That's why you have to buy new GTLDs.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I heard that it's that's not cool anymore. It's CCTLDs.
The alt TLDs, it's all encompassing. I always use alt TLDs to mean everything but .com and .org, kind of, because org is a little bit more defined and it's established, but otherwise, even .net to me, alt TLD at this point.
What is the big current theme right now? If you had to rank the top 3 themes in domaining for domain investors right now, IO and Co is one.
Definitely IO, especially if you're on the West Coast.
I think
co-prices at auction are completely absurd. Just as nearly worse than IO prices, I would say at the moment.
Yeah.
So I would say that they're kind of like parallel together in terms of what they're doing. That's definitely a trend. I would say like phrases. I think phrases have gone up in value a lot this year. I think last year it was a lot easier to get a good kind of phrase name, and this year everyone wants them.
Yeah, and those were the ones that were great for me because, you know, it's hard to search for those through automated systems. So somebody like me who went through the daily lists analog and just looked and looked and looked, I would find good ones and I would get them, you know, quite cheap compared to other ones. And it's just because there was less eyeballs on them because they're harder to find. You know,
What's going on with 3 letters these days? I'm not in that market. Is that good, bad?
They still sell for quite a bit, and we still see a lot of them on escrow.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, as end users, but as wholesale, I think
the good ones continue to do well, and the bad ones people are realizing have no value at all. It's like the JZV.com is now like trades at 12 to 15,000 or whatever, But
it's a Chinese premium.
Yeah, they just. I talked a little bit about this. I talked to James Booth about this the other day, just because I had him on the podcast. We'll be releasing next week, but we talked about the 3letter.com market, and like, it's just you kind of got to classify it just like any other. There's good words and there's bad words. There's good 3letter.coms. There's bad 3letter.coms, and the good ones are doing well.
James and Andy seem to have the golden touch at finding people who are dropping or selling domain names that are, single word generics that they just happen to really want to sell them out of nowhere.
The golden touch or the constant touch? I think you mean the constant touch.
Maybe I mean the constant touch.
Yeah.
But they're good at it either way.
I just want to buy one so I'll get emails from everybody. I'll be popular.
Yes, so we're correct in sort of, assuming that with 3 Ls, the wholesale is no longer a flat number, right? Because I think with the Chinese sort of craze a few years ago is that everyone was just buying a 3L for the sake of having a 3L, right? And then once that crashed, I think China, apparently they're still buying, but they're buying smart. They're buying they're not buying 3Ls, they're buying 3 specific letters that mean something. And that way the value, there's no, because didn't it used to be like during the chip thing that it was like, as long as there was a chip, there was a certain value regardless of the letters. Maybe there was a few that were a little bit heavier, but otherwise, but now it's like you'll have some wholesale, I think are there
well, that's because the market wasn't it was Chinese. It was the people who were buying it because they saw a wanted thread of a guy who wanted to buy it to sell it to someone who was going to sell it to the Chinese. And so,
yeah. So during that time, 2015, 2016, they were buying. They were priced. They were flatline. They were kind of baseline prices for each category, and the Chinese were paying more and more and more and more, and they were using those names as leverage to buy more names, which is why it ended up being a bubble. So, and then because then what you saw is in maybe like a year and a half ago or so, there was that company Midai, MIDAI, that suddenly was selling off all their names. And they were names that they had liens on essentially, and selling back to the market at like a fraction of what they paid.
So what's going on with 4Ls these days? Are they still all completely registered? So I those two, I see the wholesale prices kind of have been softening over the last year and a bit, but I don't see them at 0. But again,
I think what Josh was talking about before we move on was interesting, because that liquidity where you could buy a name and pull out 60 to 70% of what you paid within a week to go buy something else was amazing. In a non-liquid business, to have that ability to, instead of having to wait for a sale to fill up your coffers to go grow your portfolio, you could buy, which would allow you to pull out money to buy more. So buying allowed you to go buy more. And that's and there was a lot of money in that. Like at one point, weren't all 6number.coms taken? Remember at one point there was a news thing where it's like, no, they're all being held.
All six numbers were registered at one point.
Yeah. That's just like, what do you do with a 6L? 6 number. It's like, what are you gonna do? Like, it's just, I don't know. Like, there's not a lot compared to the letters.
You're gonna flip them, Marv. You're gonna flip them. You can make 10 times your money.
Yeah, right. I never got into that chip stuff. Well, that was my kind of way I started as well. But I was like, no, I'd rather just get my closeouts, and you're risking the same amount, because you said you'd buy a domain for $100 and you'd risk 20% downside, but 20% is $20. Meanwhile, I'm buying a domain at closeout for $20, I think is a good chance of selling. I always thought that model was much better.
Let me ask you this question. So I thought when all those numbered names went away, that there would be no way that the .com user number of names could grow, that it would have to have an impact on it. But it hasn't. It stayed flat. And this is the first year it's grown. What took up the slack? Was it all brandables? I mean, did brandables take up the slack of 6 number? Yeah, Josh?
I think people have a set, without a subconscious limit to how many names they want to buy at any given time. And, you know, a part of that focus was on the number market for a while. At least for me, it was as well, you know. And as soon as that market goes away, the focus goes into other areas. And I think brandables is probably one of the areas that a lot of people turn their focus to, that were dabbling in areas like the 6 number or 5 number market. Yeah, it makes sense. It's kind of, you're gonna go to another direction around the similar kind of price point.
Yeah.
It's kind of like why the 3letter.com, including the Chinese investors, why the heavy 3letter.com people like James, right, went to oneword.coms when that value chain started to change. So, you know, now you see all these people that were in the 3-letter and 4-letter markets and the CVCV markets going into, you know, the oneword.io and the oneword.co markets as well, because because you know how that trend, and at the end of the day, it's still following trends, right? I mean, the trend for now is related to what end users are spending big money for, but the trend in 15-16 was what the Chinese market, which were paying up like end users, were. So, you know, it was a similar kind of thing. Like when the 3-letter chips were at 80K or 100K or what, I mean, that was ridiculous. Like that was what end users were paying for them anyway. So kind of interesting.
Yeah.
A lot of names.
Is there something, Josh? I got challenged to evaluate a portfolio, a non-trivial and very valuable, in my opinion, portfolio of .io domains. Is there something out there that has like price indications on, you know, like X number of letters, this many words? Like I've used NameBio, I've looked at NameBio for this. What other sources are there out there with comparable sales for .io?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything really out there that exists to the extent where it would provide too much value. I think that particularly with like .io, you need to pull together, I would say 5 to 6 different data sources, you know, like comparable sales and you know, number of extensions and all that kind of stuff. To create a tool, something, you know, the closest thing that I would look to is for people who have DN Academy is the valuation sheet that Michael created for DN Academy. That is the closest thing that I would look to when looking for, particularly on oneword.ios like that. That's what I would look to as the closest thing to being able to determine value, for sure.
But it's a lot of work. You know, that's like doing a full appraisal and looking at all the characteristics of every single domain name. And it's not an insignificant time. You know, I'm always approached by people, I'm sure everybody here is, what do you think of these domain names? And I can throw out a number that everybody could do as well. And maybe there's power in the group and it will converge down to an average that is on the appropriate order of magnitude. But, you know, you wouldn't take that for your house. You wouldn't go to 30 people and say, what do you think my house is worth, without walking through it and knowing the characteristics, and then use that to sell your house. You would actually have a professional look at all the characteristics, find the comparables, make an assessment based on their expertise and where they think the market is going, and or where the market is today, and then come up with a valuation that's that you can stand behind, that you can justify. And that's a lot of work, Jonathan. If you have a portfolio of 100 names, that's going to take you quite a while. I haven't been able to.
I was going to say, that's what we do. That's what we do every day. We take all those metrics that Michael's talking about and that take a little bit of time. Obviously, we've kind of trying to make it flow in a way that is, you know, speeds up the process enormously with some automation and stuff. But we're looking at 5 or 6 different metrics that it takes time. Even if you've got all of the you know, the best possible automation in place, it still takes time because it needs someone to look at each name. Otherwise, you could probably get, like Michael said, you could probably get close, but otherwise you're guessing as opposed to you know, being able to back up your valuation based on data.
Well, the portfolio is mixed, but it does have a lot of what I'm certain are very valuable .io names. And you know, when I've had discussions with people about buying the portfolio, and this might just be an approach that's taken, folks tend to just jump right into the quantity of names and try to come up with a cost per name in bulk for that portfolio. And I know that just really overlooks a significant amount of the value there. So what I'm doing is trying to bucketize them in different ways, where I look at them and break them down by comparables. For example, the consonant vowel pattern in them, or other places where I can come up with different, maybe smaller buckets that give less like price gradation, and that ends up demonstrating more of the value in the portfolio. And it's a really powerful, I think, counterpoint when somebody's trying to negotiate in giant buckets like that, to be able to at least break down the buckets. Did I make sense when I was saying that?
Yeah, I think that's a valid way to do it. You know, there are 6 types of second level domains, right? Generics, exact match, brandables, numerics, alphanumerics, and acronyms. And so you can quickly bucketize the 100 or 1,000 names into those 6 types. And then you could say that acronyms and numerics in .io generally aren't as valuable as they are in .com, right? They're going to be comparable to .net or whatever, unless you get a standout like 123.io, which Shane just sold. Like,
oh, he sold it finally.
Yeah.
Well, he finally sold it. And
Michael, don't you take into account things like backlinks and prior use and trademark rights?
You can, but you know what? I do. In the valuation worksheet that we put out in DN Academy, it's got 40 plus characteristics that we look at, and those include trademarks, the number of companies that are using it, on down the line, Stephen, to your point. But for Jonathan's point, where he's just trying to get to bucketize them to try and come up with a dollar value, I think you can bucketize numeric.io, 3-letter numerics, 4-letter numerics, 4-letter acronym.ios, 3-letter acronym.ios. You can bucketize those and come up with a dollar amount. The most valuable type of the .ios are the generics. They're the words, right?
That makes sense for a tech company, yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a tech word.
Sometimes the brandables, the made-up words, sometimes the exact match tend not to, unless it's something technology related. Bitcoin, computers, software.
Yeah.
And then that exact match could be very valuable. Tokens.io. Did somebody just buy that? I probably shouldn't say anything. Anyways, things like that would be an exact match would be more. But like skeleton.io, I recently just purchased. That's a generic word, and it tends to be something like a framework or somebody might use for development. And so I think that would have more value than on a retail basis than, a 3-letter.io that's just random letters that are out there. So, I think you can look at it that way if people are trying to talk about how much should we price these at wholesale for the generic.ios, the acronym.ios, the numerics.
Yeah, I think .ios it's a very unique, well, not completely unique, but it's pretty unique TLD in that the number of domains that have value, I think, are quite low relative to like a .co, where .co is a broader spectrum of potential buyers, and there's different things you could sell. But the ones that will sell on .io, I think, are the ones that potentially be worth a good amount, because you're looking at tech companies who want a brand, and they're buying .ios because they want something short and simple and clear cut, like 2-word .ios. Unless it's like a compound word, it's not something that's investable. But if you get like a 1 word, like that makes sense as a brand. Like it doesn't have to be tech related, but like tech friendly, like the skeleton, or even just like rabbit or monkey or carrot or something that is being used in a brandable way. I think it's good. But the moment you step outside of that, forget it. Like in .co, I sold one of my first domain sales a few years ago was bookworm.co, but that would never sell on .io. That's in that level where it's further from the center in terms of a brand, but it would work in .co because it's more of a generic sort of field. But in tech, it's got to be in that narrow sort of focus group.
Yeah, I used to
think,
feel
Jonathan,
that way
I think
as
that's
well, but I think it's expanding. Sorry, Paige, go for it.
Yes, yeah, it definitely is. It's a developing TLD, right? I mean, there's you could argue now
what I was going to say was,
go Paige.
I think figuring out what each name is worth is only half the battle, because the thing that's probably changing the most with .io is if you knew what a name was worth, how much should you pay for it?
Yeah.
And I think trying to come up with some metrics to gauge for each generic unit of value that you may have determined that a 3 number or a 3 letter or a 1 word has, then it becomes where is the liquid price? You know what I mean? And I think that's the second component that you're seeing in the marketplace, is that the perceived liquidity is rising the floor on IOs to where there's maybe a little bit of safety on your exit. There's a little bit of volume underneath you. And if you think about it, that maybe reduces the spread, the bid-ask spread. And I think that may end up being a bigger component of your evaluation than necessarily the individual names and where they slot into buckets. It's the whole concept of the appropriate discount for liquidity that you pay for an IO.
Yeah, well, I think, and even what you're saying, perceived discount, I mean, perceived liquidity, it's not even perceived at this point. Like .io is so hot that it's the liquidity, the end users are coming to that extension and inflating the value of it, but like that's real metrics, right? It's not like perceived, it's actually based on real demand. Like, I don't know, I don't deal in .ios, I just, listen to what everyone else says. So I can't say too much, but I mean, I think it's safe to assume that end user sales for .io is at least doubled in the last.
Well, this is a crazy good portfolio. Is the point? I present it here, but I think it's above the reach of most as far as what they want to do with it.
Are you representing the portfolio owner? Is that what you said, Jonathan?
Yes.
All right. How do I get access to the list?
But pivoting this.
Hold on. How do I get access to the list? I need to email you.
Offline, Mike. Offline.
All right.
So one thing that I'm coming up as far as valuation on this is something I'd like to present, and maybe we make this into a thing, is a concept. And I see this happening inside of certain TLDs where it makes sense. Like I call it a dot span, where basically, the CCTLD can kind of be, I don't know, people have called it domain hacks and things like that, but I think there's a really specific way to do it, which would be like with .as, it could be like CUTL.as would spell cutlass, or South Sudan's .ss just came out where you can spell something out. I'm sure you could do something like this with .la or .ly. You see this happen like digital.ly would be digitally.
I think
so. There's a concept, or one more second. So there's a concept I have here, which is a dot span, and there's 2 flavors of it. The first is where the dot would replace a character in the actual spelling, and then the other is where the dot, is just kind of there as part of the whole thing. And digitally was an example of that, but you could have something like I'm making these up, so I'm trying to be really careful, but like fa.st for like sound to me.
Those I think are what's known as commonly known as domain hacks, whereas the other ones where you're talking about a different word, like I have the domain get on the .net, that would be like what I call span the dot, whereas it's a different word, but especially with the new TLDs, like there's a lot of those, because the last word is a word, so like your phrase spans the dot, whereas a hack would be where it's the word, it's not a complete word at the right of the dot. It's like, as you said, like let's say I'm trying to think of something now, like fast, like .st, it's fa.st, that would be a hack. And whereas if it was like blazing.fast, that would be like a span the dot, you know?
Yeah, that's the way I define it.
Yeah.
So if it's mid-word, I'm sorry, Deb, go ahead.
I'll go ahead. I'll go after you.
Okay, pardon me. So you're saying it's domain hack if it breaks the word.
Correct.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it doesn't matter how you word it, right? I mean, those are different types. But what did you have something you wanted to say about those, or?
Well, I mean, looking across a portfolio, I'm seeing things where, you know, a name could potentially be a 3-character name, 1-character, 2-character, 3-character name, but it does that sort of name hack to where, you know, they're still really popular inside of URL shorteners or other places, right? Yeah. That, you know, it actually does spell something out literally as a domain hack, but I could see it being an actual, like, this is something somebody would be attracted to specifically for that purpose. Like, it's for that
there's
value.
a domain tool that
DN Prices.
That, and it's like PRI.
Every single time I go to DN Prices, I'm like, which one is it again? DN PRIC.es.
Right. That's
yeah.
It. So I mean,
heck of a nice guy.
I don't
absolutely
personally, I don't see those as being the best in terms of a brand that somebody to use, because again, it's so confusing. The span the dots, on the other hand, I think do have future potential as the critical mass awareness of NGTLDs as a whole becomes more common. And it's like, oh yeah, that is a dot in there. You know, it's like, it's not, they're not going to go like I said, like blazing.fast. They're not going to automatically go blazingfast.com, which is people do right now. But in 5-10 years, when that NGTLD sort of it becomes more commonplace in the general sort of population, I think those are going to get increasingly popular. And I think, Mike, didn't you do a Sherpa with somebody who had only hacks? There was a Sherpa.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I'm not sure if it was me. It's a Frenchman.
Yes. Yes, and I think he might even be in Montreal.
Maybe it was me that did that. Let's see.
Yeah, it was. I think it was at least 3 years ago, I want to say.
And while you guys are figuring that out, Deb was going to say something, and I cut her off. So I'll make sure we get to her.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Jonathan. Wait. I know.
Think of a thin jaw, like you want to punch me because I interrupt you all the time. A thin jaw.
Right.
Yeah.
Jonathan. That's what I thought. That's what I said, I think. So
I only correct people I like, by the way.
Okay. So yeah, the only comment I was going to make was that Brand Bucket, they used to only allow, I mean, they have IOs, right? So as far as any 2-word IOs, they only allowed tech-related 2-word IOs. You could do a made-up IO, like they have a lot of .ios in their 3-letter domains. Probably almost as many as .coms in the 3-letter space. But recently they started allowing pretty much any .io. It doesn't have to be tech related. So I just thought that you know, gives vision to what's happening with the IOs.
All right. But yeah, so Max Guerin was it, and he had some decent sales too.
He did.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember how I was walking steamy when I heard that one. All right, so there is I didn't have too many names for the auction this week, and Shiva is here in India where it's currently, I think, 5 a.m. So I'm just going to do hers right away now. So to submit an auction domain for auction, again, go to the website thedomainsocial.com, click on auction, get all the info there. I won't get into that now. For the rules, bidding starts when the slide goes up and the reserve goes up. Again, as attendees, people watching, you're expected to discuss selling points, potential end users, potential uses for the domain, data comps, domain history, anything else. It's expected to, as your entrance fee is to help the sellers sell their domains. So don't be shy to shout out anything you think could could add value to the domain. Again, if it's anything negative, limit to facts. Again, if it's something negative, you could say it, but just limit it to the facts. Buyer's responsible for checking the data and the stats. Minimum increments, I'll put in the chat, so you don't have to worry about that here. Auction close is based on when we type in the chat, auction ended or auction closed or sold. So when I say going once, going twice, sold, it's not what I say sold. Well, it's what's written in the chat, just in case of lag, to have a clear line. Again, buyer and sellers exchange your contact info in a Zoom chat immediately. No commission between buyer and sellers, so Domain Social has no official role. If you lose somebody's email, get in touch with me, that's no problem, but try to do it right away, and otherwise your buyer and sellers direct. And if there's anything unexpected or unique, we reserve the right to make a decision that makes the most sense. And on that, that's all the intro. I'm cutting that down more and more. So first domain up for auction is Shiva's. It's SEOenhancer.com. Expires in a year from now, almost in October. It's at GoDaddy, push only. It's a $40 reserve. And at that, I'll let Shiva do her pitch. Go for it.
Yeah. So good morning, everyone. As it is in India, 5 a.m. it is.
Yeah, sorry about that.
SEOenhancer.com, like in this domain, plural SEOenhancer.com is taken, and it is a great keyword domain having SEO in it. And SEO enhancer is needed to boost, enhance site results, ranking, and it can be used for like every site. And some of the comparable sales is SEOgenius.com sold for $1,500, and SEOboost.com sold for $4,200, and SEOdashboard.com sold for $1,800, and SEOmonitor.com sold for $3,600. And so here you can bid. Thank you.
All right, so SEO Enhancer, the reserve is 40, so we're looking for an opening bid of 40. SEOenhancer.com. Anybody have any thoughts on the, oh my goodness, we have Mike Seiger in the house. So I was gonna ask anybody have any experience with SEO domains. We have the experience here. You still have any left?
I do. I've got, I think I only have one left, maybe SEOstrategies.com. I have SEMcertification.com. I've sold a lot of SEO domain names, and I was, while Shiva was talking, I was going to name bio, searching for SEOatthestart.com, dictionary, 2-word, and date range, past year. She said some good comps, but I wanted to actually look at them. Past year, SEO Planner, Uniregistry sold for $35.30. SEO Base, $2,000 on Cedo. SEO Guarantee, SEO Accelerator. I think they're still selling clearly to end users for the 2-word combo. I think that I don't know what an SEO enhancer is my only question around it.
Could be a tool, I guess, that maybe helps you extract, enhance the value of your domain. It's not, probably wouldn't be the first word I'd think, but it's not a word that I would say isn't necessarily usable. I think it's definitely usable. Yeah. So anyways, we're still looking for opening bid, guys, of 40. So at 40, the opening bid.
SEO Booster definitely seems like a strong keyword phrase. It's similar. There is a Chrome extension called Google Search Console SEO Enhancer. There's also a SEO Enhancer Marketplace, SEO Enhancer on Facebook. There is the SEO Enhancer Twitter handle. Let me see what's there. It seems to, it's got a few people that are using it. SEO Enhancer Twitter handle is using SEO-enhancer.blogspot.com.
Ooh, there's a buyer for you. A buyer who desperately needs the domain.
It doesn't look like they've updated their log in quite a while. And it's not an active. But yeah, there definitely seems like there are some people using SEO Enhancer as a phrase, as a brand.
I could see somebody taking in like a WordPress plugin or something, like Yoast, doing something where this should be the perfect name for that.
Yeah, I do too. Well, any bids, guys? $40. SEOenhancer.com.
There's actually an SEO Enhancer tool that says it's for sale, meaning somebody's actively selling a tool called SEO Enhancer for $20.
Oh, wow. What domain are they using?
Instantly enhance the SEO on your WHMCS website.
Yeah, I didn't know what that acronym was either.
Yeah. Marketplace.whmcs.com.
Jeez. Yeah. So there's another buyer for you.
Web hosting, billing, and automation platform.
WHMCS is widely used out in the space of registrars. Like I could point you at, well, sure. So if you look at a lot of the CCTLDs will take, so I work with a registry platform called Coca, Fast Story. It runs about 60 to 70 different TLDs, and they have a module for WHMCS. So, you've got your EPP registry over here, and then the WHMCS is the storefront for that. And the WHMCS is like a platform, just like, WordPress is for blogging. WHMCS does the customer service, and it deals with the billing, and it can connect with register, reseller, blah, blah, blah. So an SEO module thing would be fantastic for something like that.
Yeah, that's where I saw it. I think I saw it in my cPanel control panel.
Yeah.
That's why it sounded familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rob Latch says it's a cPanel management.
Yeah. Yeah, Rob.
We established it's a decent domain. It's a pretty good domain. SEO Enhancer, there's potential uses for it. Potential buyers. All right, get you guys out of the woodwork. We're going to start saying at $40, looking for a bid of $40 actually. Going once. There it is.
It's like stepping on a lemon.
Yeah, I know. That's funny because I don't want to get things going, this and that, but I want people to talk it up. And all right, so we have a bid of $40. Next bid will be $45. We are in the $5 increment, minimum increments. You can bid more if you want, but there we go. So we're at 40 and we're looking for 45 for SEO Enhancer. We've already enhanced the value of this domain with a lot of discussion on it. So at $40, looking for 45, we're going to say going once. SEOenhancer.com at 40, looking for 45. Going twice. There it is. There it is. All right, so we got 45. Now we're looking for 50. So that's it. So auction's over. What do you guys want to talk about? Anything?
Well, that was easy.
Yeah, I want to close things early tonight, but I'm kind of had a really crazy week, but now I'm feeling a little bit more relaxed and I can go on for a little bit longer. Anybody have anything they want to talk about? What were we talking about before? Anything? No? Anybody want to say Steven Lieberman 3 times in a row to see if he pops back up again?
That's funny. It's amazing how he does that. And it's like he pinged me right before you guys started talking about Miss Jello, and I was like, "How do you do that?"
What was it last? What were we talking about last time he came on? It wasn't the same subject. It was, I forget what we were talking about. It was just like, poof.
Hey, I got a question for anybody out there. Breaker 19. Anyone got their ears on?
And for good, buddy.
Did anyone do the $4?
There's only 3 of us that got that reference, Paige.
Paige,
there's only 3 of us that got that reference, that are old enough to get that reference.
What's that song? 10-4 back door, put the pedal to the metal and let her roar, right?
Envoy.
Well, that's a good one.
There we go.
How about you,
The
big
original internet. The CB radio.
Right.
Think about it. Think about it. Last year, Network Solutions had .ios for the amazing price of $4.99, and I'm a sucker for a promo. Has anyone tried to actually get an authorization code or transfer one of those out of there? I heard it's a mess, and I'm looking for a little help.
You didn't start a year ago.
What?
You didn't start the process a year ago of asking for the auth code?
I have till June. They expire in June, so I feel like I'm doing pretty good.
So Paige, did you look at the agreement closely to determine if it wasn't conditioned upon a full price renewal upon its anniversary?
Expiry.
Well, it's funny that you say that because normally I never click and agree to terms of service box without thoroughly reading all the information behind it. So I do not recall in this exact instance whether I did or not. Most likely I didn't. Would they really do that to me, Jonathan? Could they really do it and not charge me the renewal at the time, but say that I'd have to pay it later?
They might condition a transfer out on that.
Is this just for IO, or you mean any name over there?
No, this is just for IO.
Okay.
Well, but Kevin's point is really good. I think that you could see promotions like that. I mean, often if the registry is not offering an incentive,
that's what I was going to say.
Many registrars might say, "Hey, we'll give you the first year for this price, conditioned upon you renewing at the full price next year."
Yeah, that's a question.
And I will say one thing.
If Paige, did you? I saw you talking about that in one of the groups. Did you get a chance to speak to Oren about that?
No, I didn't. I was read only on Skype today, so I was not able to. So
he's gone through it, and so has Doran from FD, and they both had a pretty tough time. Part of the reason why it's tough is because Network Solutions are not actually able to handle .io domains. So it's not even them. You registered it through them, but it's actually the registrar is actually Key Systems.
Interesting.
So it's a little tough to get the it's a little tougher to get the transfer code than it already normally is.
Wow.
Which I think they make you, in some cases, for a push, they actually make you fill out paperwork, like actual paperwork.
Like the old school Network Solutions transfer mint, you're transferring legal ownership and
yeah.
Well,
do you have any good ones, Paige? I want to put in a back order at park.io.
Yeah.
Well, my second choice is to find the manual delete button and see if I can manually delete it. And that's usually my go-to in a case like this is show me how I can delete this name. And if only I know it's deleting and it doesn't go through pending delete, then I'll just re-register it somewhere else.
That's an interesting little.
I know, but how long does it take for them to actually delete it? And
it's a hard delete. It's a hard delete, right? Their system's not automated.
Well, different places are. GoDaddy used to have one that banged it right away. Didn't even go through pending delete. Most of them they go through pending delete now, but it's a way I've dealt with Network Solutions in the past. I will say, it doesn't seem like pushes at Network Solutions are free anymore. It used to be you could request an internal transfer. The new owner could open up a Network Solutions account. You give them the code. Now it looks like they're putting in the $9.99 transfer fee on that beauty. So
how do you stay in business?
What do you mean, how do they stay in business? They're getting free money on a product that doesn't cost anything. It's not hard to stay in business.
But who's actually paying for that?
That was what I meant to say. Yeah, who's paying for that?
Every single person on this call, because we're forced to sometimes.
Exactly.
And only when
Enom is worse now. Enom's about the same. It's about 50-50 whether you get a code. I've got about 7 names left.
Enom, man, I bought a domain. I'm waiting for it to transfer. I got to wait a full 5 or 7 days to get it. Like,
that's you're lucky. I wish it was. Yeah, it's.
It's slow transfer only.
Wait, Mike, are you saying as a inter, like within Enom, or are you saying
inter, not intra, inter, for out of Enom to GoDaddy?
But that's just because you're spoiled, Mike. You're spoiled with those that'll let you accelerate it.
No,
I am.
You should get an email that lets you confirm the registration. You can go in and click it.
Should.
Yeah, that's what he did. That's the guy that I bought it from.
Should.
And he said that he confirmed it, and he said that it's still going to take 5 to 7 days.
Yeah,
but that's okay. That's good, Mike. That's
no,
it's when I'm 45 days. I'm 45 days after requesting a code that I still don't have a code. Come on over here, and then I'll give you a little grind file or something like that. You know,
misery loves company. I was saying that to make you feel better, Paige.
At least you got your transfer started. You know.
Yeah. You know,
you can just go down the street and see him, right? Don't you just drive down the street and see him and say, "Hey, you guys, I want my name."
Yeah.
Knock on the door. Tuck, tuck, tuck.
Wouldn't that be great? Just show up at a registrar and say, "Hi, I'm here about my name. I'll have a seat in the waiting room."
Yeah, except for when it comes to network solutions, their physical location would probably be at the top of like Mount Doom of Lord of the Rings. You know, like you got
security would escort you out.
Movies of.
They're in Arizona.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, I'm often one to criticize the GoDaddy platform a lot, but
anyway, thanks, Josh.
Yeah, give them credit where credit is due. I don't know if you guys know now, when you export your portfolio at GoDaddy, they now have a little check mark where in that export you could include auth codes. So in theory, you could export your entire portfolio, just copy the column of your auth codes next to the column of your domains, and go to registrar, where all you need to do for a bulk transfer is, you know, enter the domain and auth code, and boom, you could transfer over 100 domains, 500 domains in one shot. So, you know, it's a brave thing they did, but it's, you know, I thank them for that.
They probably did it so that they can transfer their portfolio over to corporate domains. They did it. They didn't do it for you.
Yeah, but yeah, no. So I like that, and but yeah, no. The fast transfer is I'm learning now. Like I probably was lucky with some of the registrars I've been using, because I don't use many, and like I'm waiting 5 days to 7 days. It just boggles my mind. I don't know. It's like that shouldn't even be an option these days. It's like it should be something imposed by ICANN to, if you want to be an accredited registrar, you have to provide these certain minimum features and you know, make it.
I gotta blow back on you on that one, RF. All it takes is one Friday afternoon, and you don't get a message that your account was accessed until Monday morning, and your domain has been, the auth code's been requested by somebody, and you know, there was a purpose for that cooling off period. That I'm glad that you can accelerate it if it's you to you, and you know both sides, and you accept all the risk, and yada yada yada. But there is a purpose for that 5 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess, but it's fun just to have everything done in one shot, and you can just redo your inventory right there on the spot 1 hour later, not even 15 minutes later.
But I mean, that means someone else could get your name out of your account if they call up and convince the person that they know the password and they just forgot it, and then they get it, and then they get the auth code and they transfer it out, and then they accelerate it and it's gone.
I guess. I don't know if anybody. I don't know. Can people call up and get transfers done like that?
You could
That's
get
how the whole. That's how the Chinese found this market.
You get transfers done super quickly. I got about 300 names out of Namebright to Uniregistry in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what it's if I think that's, you know, it's great. But yeah, you're right. There's a security thing there too, but that's why the domains are supposed to be locked, right? So once you transfer, it's supposed to be 60 days, but that's not always the case now, right? So I don't know.
They are locked at the receiving registrar. So that
they're supposed to be, but now it's not a must anymore. The only thing I think that's 100% no choice by the registrar is after creation for 60 days, which is weird because like who cares? It's created, so you by default you didn't steal it from anybody, right? So you'd think that would be the exception they allow you to break, is that if it's a newly created domain, why does it need to be locked? Who knows? But yeah, but otherwise I'm pretty sure that I mean I know when you transfer account to account at GoDaddy, you don't need to, you could opt out of the lock. I'm trying to think now. I think, I don't know. I'm pretty sure I'm trying to think if I've transferred to a new registrar and sold a domain within 60 days. I want to say yes, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Because, obviously you would need to have that lock lifted.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in favor of things that speed up the process where you're going in and manually kind of speeding things along to get things sped up in that 5-day. GoDaddy, you can do that, for instance, but yeah, network solutions, you got to wait it out. And
well, maybe network solutions you can, but you need that auth code first, right? So it doesn't help if it takes 3 months to get the auth code and then you can move it in 3 minutes, but you still need the auth code first. So who knows? I whenever I see promos, I see network solutions, I'm like, I don't even bother. Like $1 domain for me, like, you have a max of 5, and yeah, you can open up other accounts and blah, but it's like just not even worth the headache and the time,
I was pretty disappointed to see that Epic is no longer going to be a fast transfer registrar through Afternic.
Yep. Domain politics. That's going to take effect early January, I think it is. That's who knows the reasons of that. Epic is Epic, right? So I mean, I've talked to Rob before, and there's good and bad at Epic, right? I mean, it's a good platform. There's a lot of stuff you can do there, but it's going to get hit by some political stuff sometimes, since it's part of the package.
You think it's coming from Afternic as opposed to Epic? Is that your speculation then, you're saying?
No, it seems like that was not speculation. That was the case. I think it's public knowledge that Epic received contact from GoDaddy or Afternic stating the contract they were ending the contract with Epic, not the other way around. Yeah, and the reasons, not public, obviously, but who knows? It could be personal, like what happened at NamesCon, with Rob and the new CEO of GoDaddy, or it could be because of the PayPal stuff. They don't want to be seen associated. It could be any number of reasons, and we're just gonna guess till the cows come home. And it's because there's no real way of knowing the truth, and we'll never know the truth. So, don't know if we could speculate. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're already speculating at Epic, but again, unless you see the internal memos at GoDaddy, there's no way of knowing. But yeah, it's a big deal, because I know a lot of domainers last year took advantage of some of the aggressive pricing at Epic to move stuff over there, and to lose fast transfer at Afternic, it's a thing. It's
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's not nothing.
Yeah, I sold a 5K name this week, fast transferred out of Epic.
Yeah.
And I mean, it went smooth and everything. I haven't been paid by Afternic.
So here's a question. Which registrars have fast transfer to both Afternic and Sedo? How many are there?
There's 2. If you take Afternic, or if you take Epic off, which is because they're not going to have Afternic after January, it's Dynadot and NameSilo.
Hexanet does, and mine does.
Okay.
But
also name.com, I believe.
What was that, Rob?
Isn't name.com on both?
I did not. All right. I did not see Hexanet on both lists. I did an exhaustive spreadsheet the other day where I wrote down and they don't make a text file. They put logos on the screen at the at Afternic and at Cedo, and you have to like write the names down from the logos.
Yeah.
And I did my best to match it up. And of the ones, and I certainly didn't mean to leave you off the list, Jonathan. But the ones there were a few smaller ones that I looked at that had prices that were just not competitive, and I didn't even consider them. So let me rephrase what I said. Of the ones that offer competitive prices, the ones that I noted that were on my short list were NameSilo and Dynadot. And from what I understand, NameSilo works on a prepaid plan that is kind of unwieldy. And I've been frustrated. I like their interface. I don't like that whole prepaid thing. And I've bought some names on their auctions, which are really kind of oddly configured, but sometimes you can find a good name. But that prepaid thing is probably a deal breaker for me there. So right now, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I moved 1,000 names, actually more in one account, in one portfolio at 649.
That's right. Last year. Yeah. And I'm in the same boat.
And that's, I'm pretty sure Jonathan can probably confirm that's below cost. And if these all get transferred out without ever renewing, that's a net loss to Epic.
Not necessarily, because they probably got, when you got it for 650 transfers, they were probably getting something from VeriSign. So it probably was cost, but I wouldn't say, okay, they're not bleeding money because of it. But yeah, it sucks. And for me, the bigger issue is not just Afternic, it's PayPal, because I'm in Canada, right? So if I want to pay something by PayPal, I sell domain in US dollars, it goes to my USD PayPal. I just pay my renewals and all that other stuff with my PayPal account. But otherwise, if they don't have PayPal, then I got to switch the money to my bank account in Canadian dollars and then pay again in USD. And I'm losing 8%. You know, I mean, and then on top of that, there are other registrars were offering discounts to transfer. So it's like, I like to be a little bit faithful when I get something at a discount and renew there. And I have, I do some stuff, but at the same time, it's like, you're not making it easy. Now, again, we don't know what happened with the PayPal, like with the, with was it NameBio? No, it was Adam and Michael. They had issues with PayPal 2 weeks ago, but that got resolved.
Right.
I think they got lucky in getting the right person at the right time at the right desk and all that, but they were patient. And I think Michael was at least, went with a calm approach and grounded approach and like trying to see if they could resolve something first before going and attacking and saying, it's because of our politics and all this other stuff. I mean, that's the thing with Epic. It's, if you go out guns blazing, the other side, they're not going to be as willing to sit down and negotiate or figure out what the problem is. If you're accusing them of being, bigoted or whatever it is, or discriminatory or whatever the accusations were, the PayPal's not going to be as willing to take the time to figure out what the problem was. So it's I don't know.
Yeah, I was willing to work to continue to do business with them with the after the PayPal issue. I'm still not sure what the deal with Dan and them was, and I don't know. I can't unpack that, and I don't really care.
You know what? Yeah, I'm at the point now too where it's just like,
but it's like all right, yet another thing. I'm not going to be. I've got over 2,000 names in my account, my personal account. Over 1,000 names in another account there. I can't transfer them all out tomorrow. It's not going to be the way it goes, but I'm going to have to evaluate it. And I've got a question, an email in with some direct questions to my Afternic rep, because I looked at all of my sales, all of my Afternic sales, and 82% of them came from either Afternic or GoDaddy Cart. So the only, I've got 18% that could be affected by this, but It doesn't break it down according to the resellers as far as, is it the fast transfer premium network or is it the general ones? So I've got some direct questions into my Afternic rep. He hasn't responded yet, to see if I can get a breakdown of those. And then they don't make it clear of, is a premier partner also a standard partner? I mean,
yeah, okay. That was my question, was going to be, is the fact that Epic no longer has fast transfer, does that eliminate all other, like the registrar network within Afternic? Or does that mean that now it's only limited to sales through GoDaddy and Afternic? You know, like all
unless there's more to this than we've heard, and so far it's only been Epic. All this means is that if you have a name listed at Afternic that is at Epic, you'll have to put in, and it sells through GoDaddy or through Afternic, that you'll have to put in an authorization code, and you'll get paid 6 days faster, which I don't mind one bit.
Yeah, but my question is, will it even be listed at the other registrars? In fact, I think some of the registrars.
It will be at some. It will be.
That's the big problem. I thought it lost distribution across the network.
It doesn't lose. It doesn't lose complete distribution. It loses certain pieces of distribution.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually think the large majority of the distribution remains.
I think so too.
For the Western market, not so there's a lot more eyeballs that go onto your domain when it's in fast transfer, but that's because the fast transfer network includes like a bunch of Chinese registrars and stuff like that.
Okay.
And obviously there's a lot of people in that use those registrars, which is what they, how they break down the number of eyeballs that look at each registrar. So actually, I think probably in the grand scheme of things, you still get most of like the Western based registrars, like, Namecheap, Dynadot. I think they're all still in it as well, outside of fast transfer.
Okay.
I asked this question Hey guys, I asked this question on Twitter yesterday, and that's the exact wording I used, was eyeballs. My question was, just received an email, Epic's not in fast transfer anymore. Does it really make a difference? I mean, can't a buyer still buy that DN from all partners? And then somebody gave me the link to Afternic, and it says 75 million sets of eyeballs. The distribution is 75 million less if it's not part of the fast transfer.
75 million out of how many?
I don't know, but it says Afternic gets your domains in front of buyers all over the world. Every domain listed with us is promoted as a manual transfer domain, but making your domain a fast transfer domain gives it an extra level of exposure. Fast transfer domains reach 75 million plus potential buyers each month and generate the highest average sales price. And it goes on and on. But this is a link that came from Afternic in the domain reseller program.
But does that say 75 million more, or does that say 75 million is the amount total?
75 versus 35.
It says,
yeah, 75, 35.
Well, here's what it says exactly on the link. Fast transfer domain gives it an extra level of exposure. Fast transfer domains reach 75 million plus potential buyers. I guess you can read that both ways.
The standard network reaches 35 million. So,
wow, so that's a big difference.
Right. Well, it's
so
a big
difference. Huge. That's a huge amount of eyeballs, and it makes it hard for us that maybe got a couple domains that name Liquidate or got a couple .orgs because they were cheaper at Epic. So yeah, you really have to think that, do you want 40 million extra or 75 million extra eyeballs as part of the fast transfer network?
Well, if it's 35 versus 75, it's 3 times the difference, right? It's 3x. It's a big
amount. Exactly. That's huge.
Although Epic is still on the CEDO fast transfer, which gives it access to some of those registrar partners.
Right.
And then there also is the question, those are eyes looking on it, but those are eyes that were looking for a $10 hand registration and are being presented with, an option for another name. Clearly, lots of names sell on Afternic, but I think the absolute numbers are possibly a little misleading.
And that's the tact I'm taking, Bob. I knowing that I have as many as I do at Epic, and I have not yet listing them at Cedo, I'm going to list them at Cedo to try and pick up some of those partners that I lose with the Afternic loss. But at the same time, it's going to be really hard for me to decide when a name comes up for renewal and it's a full price renewal and and it's the same price as a transfer. Would I not rather transfer this to somewhere that is going to be?
Yeah, there's no doubt. I think all of us or many of us will move domain names as they come up for renewal for that reason. And it's a big loss to Epic. Can someone tell me, if one was seeking a workaround, if I listed the names separately through my GoDaddy auctions account, does that get it on the GoDaddy registration stream, which is the big difference between the Cedo and the Afternic fast transfer networks?
Well,
you can speak to that, Bob.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jason. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if it's going to show up in the GoDaddy registration stream, even if it's not fast transfer. So, I've got hundreds of names, maybe just over 1,000 at Namebright, and I actually did an experiment. I went to a bunch of the partners to see which ones they showed up at, and I went to a bunch of the standard partners. The bulk of them would show it available even at partners, and definitely at GoDaddy. Oddly, there was one partner that didn't, and I'm like, well, did this partner fall off the wagon and they didn't get their logo removed from the site? What's going on there? But it wasn't a big name. It wasn't somebody that, so I actually went through and I looked at the total registrations at all of the partners for both Cedo and the other ones. And a lot of these logos go with very small registrars, like 5-digit registrations, low 6-digit total registrations. So, I mean, while I consider this third strike, this Afternic after the other two, to be, kind of something that gives me pause about Epic, I am not as concerned about sales immediately. I don't think you're talking about a small impact on 18% of my sales.
Yeah, because as Josh mentioned before, it's like, sure, the numbers might say you have 2x or 2/3 of the eyeballs are being lost, but what are the quality of those eyeballs, and what are the likelihood of those specific eyeballs buying your domain? Like if it's mostly China and non-English speaking countries, then is it as significant? Who knows?
I thought I might jump in on Bob's question about the GoDaddy auctions. I think Jason nailed it, which is you're still going to get GoDaddy distribution, but the reason I use auctions, and I'm probably one of the few that still do, is you can put different minimum offers. When you list your name at Afternic, they just put the minimum offer at 65%, and they handle, if someone offers on GoDaddy, their platform manager at Afternic handles it. Whereas sometimes I like to set a lower minimum offer, because you know how it is. Today's $3,000 name could be sold for 500, So you might be able to have someone offer low. The downside is when someone offers low, they never want to, come up higher. But I think Jason's comment that you get GoDaddy distribution, you'll still get GoDaddy distribution for your Epic names being on the regular platform. Now to your guys, 75 million and 35 million, which I mentioned in the chat, I've been on Afternic's thing forever, since they started 3 iterations ago. I doubt any of that stuff is ever updated. I'm surprised annually at registrars that I think are fast transfer, and I send them and they go, oh yeah, they dropped it. They haven't been in the program for a year. You know what I mean? And different things like that. So I don't know if we should assume that they've really got which registrars are fast transfer and which aren't, and which ones are marketing partners really dialed in.
Yeah,
and I would say, honestly, Cedo is probably worse. They could be 10 years behind on who they're listing. So for whatever that's worth.
I'm here.
Go ahead, Rob.
Hello, Rob.
Hey guys. I don't really know. I don't know too much, but a little German birdie told me that you guys were talking about Afternic.
Yeah.
And,
well, the question was, with Afternic not allowing Epic in the fast transfer, does that impact the standard Afternic MLS system?